Hi. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first official episode of Spooky Chicks and Horror Flicks, hosted by myself, Emma, and my lovely co-host,
Allie.
We're super excited to be here today. Oh my God. Does that sound like a wedding? We're all gathered here today.
Are you giving a wedding toast?
I think I am. Well, anyway, so we actually really are excited to be here today. Allie and I have talked about making a podcast for a very long time, and just a little bit of background on us. We are two best friends, been best friends for over 10 years, and we love all of the things that are spooky, creepy, witchy, any of those things. Big fans of the macabre. And we also share a big love for horror movies. And we decided to start this podcast so that we could talk about them, because every time we talk about a movie that we've seen, we go on for hours and hours, and thought that maybe like two of you would like our banter. So,
hey, we'll see. Let's get to.
So can we just start off by saying cheers to our first official episode?
Sure can.
Just so everyone knows.
Let's not get
okay, one, two.
wine on our equipment, but
Okay. Woo! Take a sip. Take a sip.
Lovely.
We are drinking some Sauvignon Blanc
Our fave.
and some White Claw.
Well, yeah. She's drinking Sauv. I'm drinking White Claw. We put it in a wine glass. That's how it be.
Specifically, I'm drinking Yellowtail. Is that what it's called? Yellowtail.
I think so.
Right? That's
Yeah.
what it's called.
Let's
With the
go with
kangaroo
that.
on it?
Sure.
Okay. Right? Well,
Yeah.
is that what it's called?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah. Today, we are going to be talking about one of our favorite films, one of my personal favorites, too.
Your favorite. Not one of my favorites, but we'll get into that.
Well, okay, sorry. Well, it's fine. I just associate my favorites with your favorites. But anyways, Poltergeist, which is a fabulous film from 1982. And before we get into that, though, we do kind of want to start out each episode by talking about some of our roses and thorns from the week. So, Allie, why don't we start with
I'll
you?
start it off. Also, you threw me off a little bit, 10 years.
We've been friends for over 10 years.
Whoa.
I know.
Okay.
We're old.
I'm old.
We're literally not that old, so we're
okay. Okay, so hi guys. I have a couple roses just because I'm trying to keep it a little positive.
It's normally thorn.
That was probably so loud. I'm sorry. Producer. Loved that last week was a short week, and I love 4th of July.
Bang, bang.
Bang, bang,
Sparkle.
sparkle, sparkles. I just love fireworks, and I love being on the lake. We were at the lake, and so that was fun, and it was a short week on work. And a huge Rose is doing our first podcast together.
Woo!
Yeah, very, very excited about that. And we'll see, we've got a lot in store for this podcast, so just you wait. Just like Hamilton, just you wait. Sorry, I'm not a good singer. I'm sorry, Lin-Manuel Miranda. And then Thorn is, my husband and I just got two cats a couple weeks ago, and they keep just wanting to escape, and he keeps letting them out to try and have some sun time, and I'm like, dude, no. And they keep hopping the fence, and it's giving me massive anxiety. So I guess my husband's my Thorn? Just kidding. I love you, Kevin. But stop letting our kids out.
Oh my gosh, I love that. All right, and mine are actually kind of both related to my dog. Well, I guess I have multiple roses, but one of my roses is also that I am happy that we are recording our first podcast, and we are kind of laughing because, of course, I mentioned my dog, and he is licking his manhood, which he does quite frequently. So sorry if you're hearing that on the podcast. But it's also my rescue dog Cowboy's 7th birthday today. Happy birthday, Cowboy. And I've also had him for almost a year. On Saturday will be our year together. So it's been a great ride, and I love him so much. But my thorn is that it has been a frickin' pain in my behind to plan his birthday party, because naturally his name is Cowboy, so I wanted to have a Western themed birthday party, and I thought it would be a lot simpler than it is. And there's a lot of politics with who to invite when it comes to dogs and who gets along with who, and it's a whole thing. So I'm very lucky that that's pretty much my only thorn that I can think of right now.
It's not a bad thorn.
It's not a bad thorn.
Too many friends? Too many dogs
friends,
in your life?
Too many friends, and a lot of them haven't met each other, and I know like some dogs like don't get along with other, it's just a whole thing. This is not a dog podcast, but I may mention him quite a bit, so
also,
apologies in advance.
And cats.
And this isn't an animal podcast, but sometimes it might be.
Yeah.
You never know. Thank you, Allison. That was wonderful to hear.
Oh, and by the way, Emma likes to call me Allison.
Oh, yeah. That's like when I'm like really serious.
Yeah.
I'm a little serious and slightly nervous right now because I've like never been recorded at length before. So I think it's going well.
Both of us are like both equally excited and nervous, but mostly ready to be spooky as shit.
Oh, God, I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Yes.
Okay, well, let's dive in, shall we?
We're going to be diving into everything into this film and all films actually and all episodes moving forward. So if you have not seen this film, I do want to caution that there will be spoilers. So please stop now if you haven't seen it and go watch it. And if you decide not to watch it and want to keep listening, please proceed with caution.
Welcome back to Spooky Chicks and Horror Flicks. We are now moving into our trivia segment. So this is a segment that we wanted to introduce just because we both absolutely love and crush it at trivia. And I'm saying crush it when I know that we may not always crush it and that our producer has made a lot of these questions purposely hard. Okay, so anyways, diving right in, essentially what we're going to do is at the start of each episode, before we dive into our thoughts on the film and everything, we want to all together talk about 3 different trivia questions that our producer has told us, and we kind of will, both myself and Allie will write down our answers at the very beginning, and then we will go through the entire episode and then see if we got them right at the very end. And we encourage all of you guys to join along with us. We will get to a place eventually too where we can post on Instagram and have you guys kind of play along with us, before the episodes are officially out. So we'll dive right in. So our first trivia question is, what is the translation for the word poltergeist? Bonus points if you can guess the language.
Oh my gosh.
These are hard. Okay, so our second trivia question is, when Diane tries to flush Tweety the bird, what shape does its shadow cast? I have no idea.
How do you...
Okay, I actually have something in my notes that talks about that scene because they use like the shadow on the back of the toilet.
Right.
And it really reminds me of Psycho. Like with the knife on like the shower curtain.
Yeah, paying some homage.
But I don't remember there being a specific shape. I just remember it looking like a bird that was upside down, and I'm not supposed to tell you my answer. Sorry. Okay, then question number 3 is, when first conceived, what was this film originally a sequel to?
Oh my gosh. Okay, I got mine. I don't know how to spell it, but... You have to.
I have the same answer,
right?
I'm sorry. I'm looking at her.
Don't
work.
look at my
I'm
notes.
We're literally the same human. That's so funny.
I'm really bad at spelling. Sorry, producer.
But yeah, thank you, everyone. Keep your answers tucked away, and then we will revisit at the end of the episode. Welcome back to Spooky Chicks and Horror Flicks. Moving into the actual film now.
Here we go.
We're diving right in.
I'm excited to talk about this.
We wanted to give you guys a quick synopsis of the film for those of you who either haven't seen it or you just need a little bit of a refresher. So this film centers on the Freeling family, a typical middle-class family living in the peaceful Cuesta Verde estates, and it follows their family as they begin to experience a strange phenomenon at their house. A couple more facts about this film. We did want to touch on the IMDb score and Rotten Tomatoes score. I feel like those are 2 areas that people really look at when looking at different films. So IMDb has a score of 7.3 out of 10, which I want to point out is actually quite high.
For IMDb, yeah.
And for a horror film.
Yeah.
I've rarely come across a horror film that's higher than a 7, so I'm actually very impressed with that. And then the Rotten Tomatoes score is an 88%, which is also high, in my opinion, for a horror film.
And just for some contrast, the Rotten Tomatoes score for the remake, love you, Sam Rockwell, like...
Oh my God.
To my core,
Sam
love
Rockwell.
you. But the remake that was 2015 was a 29% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, not so good. And it wasn't so good. But Sam Rockwell, if you hear me.
Sam Rockwell, I was just going to say.
If you're listening.
If you're listening and you want to come and defend it, we will happily oblige.
And we'll dance with you and we'll love you.
And if you're wondering why we're bringing up dancing, it's because he has an iconic dance scene in Charlie's Angels, and we're kind of obsessed with it. So
Obsessed.
Anyways, two good call outs. This film was also created, or it came out in 1982, and it was directed by Tobe Hooper, who also directed the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which we will definitely be doing an episode on that in the future. Some of the top billed cast is Craig T. Nelson, Jo Beth Williams, Heather O'Rourke, Dominique Dunn, Beatrice Straight, Oliver Robbins, and Zelda Rubinstein. Yeah, I think right away we have some notes on Craig T. Nelson.
Yeah, so Craig T. Nelson, I know we've dubbed Pedro Pascal as Daddy? But in this film, I think Craig T. Nelson is also Daddy.
Like, if you've seen Craig T. Nelson in a film,
Yeah.
he is so tall.
Yeah.
And just like such a presence, but in like the weirdest, sexiest way. So I'm right there with you, 100%.
Thank you. I appreciate your support.
And I also have a weird obsession with him. And this is going to be something that I doubt anyone knows at all. But he was also the star of a little mini series on the Sci-Fi Channel called Creature back in I don't even know what year. And he starred amongst Kim Cattrall, who played his female love interest. And it's really great. And you guys should all watch it if you like Craig T. Nelson.
So I love him, but he also was so mean in the proposal to Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
But then he comes around.
He comes around. And then he also, in The Family Stone, great guy, loves his family. So I think
He has a lot of redeeming qualities.
and his physical appearance is a redeeming quality in this one.
100%.
82.
Yeah. And I feel like he's just aged like fine wine.
Yeah.
Like a silver fox.
But 82 Craig T. Nelson, I'm like, okay.
Oh, yeah. Like,
sure,
that's it. 100%.
let's go.
Yeah. I agree. Okay. So anyways, after that little segue. So yeah, that's kind of those are some of the main points about the movie. Again, something that is a rabbit hole that we did want to go down, but we didn't want to spend too much time is there's also a lot of conspiracy around this film. It has a lot of sadness that surrounds it. There were several people who unfortunately lost their lives in various ways throughout actually the entire franchise. I believe there's 3 or 4 Poltergeist films, and one of them happens to be the main little gal, Heather O'Rourke, who plays Carol Ann. Another one is her older sister in the film, Dominique Dunn, who plays Dana. They both really lost their lives in very tragic ways. And then throughout the film's, trilogy, there's also other various deaths that happen. There's also actually a documentary that came out, I believe, that talks about this film specifically and just all the crazy stuff that happened. At one point, they even had a shaman come onto the set and do an exorcism because they truly believed that things were haunted, and some of the actors were having paranormal things happen in their homes. So pretty crazy story.
Yeah, and it's just kind of, you hear of all of those movies that are have curse.
Yeah, curses,
associated with them. One being The Exorcist. That was an extremely cursed movie. And
we're also going to review that, so don't worry.
Yes, yeah, we'll be on that one as well. But I just really remember as a young person thinking about specifically Heather O'Rourke, who died at such a young age. It's super crazy. She was 12. And she was on the third
film, I believe.
Third film. Again, she's the little girl, they're here.
The main gal.
The main little girl who gets sucked into the TV and all of that. But she died of cardiac arrest at the age of 12, which is pretty crazy. And Emma, you said that she died and then they had to do a body double because...
Yeah, some of the final scenes in the third film, I think it's her dad or her uncle or someone is holding her kind of holding her like a baby out of the scene. And she had passed at this point in filming. And so they literally had to get a body double. Just so sad. She had a lot of medical issues, I think, that were happening and stomach problems that led to this cardiac arrest.
She had septic shock syndrome.
Yeah, which... Yeah. Crazy. And she seemed like a very healthy, normal little girl. And yeah, it's just very tragic. And then another tragic death is Dominique Dunn. Who was murdered
by her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, she was murdered by her, trigger warning. I will say she was strangled by her lover outside of her home just shortly after it was released. And she was put on life support and she died a couple days later after she'd been strangled. And it's just all kind of crazy because I'm just reading through all my notes and it seems that the prop masters and everybody on set, they used actual skeletons, like human skeletons. And so maybe that was a conduit for all of these mishaps and all of these like horrible things. But you can't help but think that's a catalyst for misgivings.
I mean, there were a lot of weird things that were happening. I think the first film is what kind of kicked it off. And again, we're going to dive into the first film specifically in this episode, but we can definitely do the following Poltergeists if we want to. But another thing that we wanted to talk about, Allie's shaking her head.
I'm like, no, I'm not.
She's like, I'm good.
I'm cool.
Yeah, they had, just like Allie said, there was like a stagehand who also, he got murdered with an axe, which was kind of crazy.
They did do an exorcism on the site because
with a real shaman.
Yeah, because they could tell something was off.
Yeah, and the shaman actually ended up passing away. We don't, obviously know exactly how, but I think he passed away from like natural causes or something.
Sketchy.
But anyways, we're kind of getting a little bit off topic here, but just wanted to dive into that a little bit because there's definitely a lot of theories about that. And we've always been super interested with that story and just like how it affected so many people. And even Craig T. Nelson and Jo Beth Williams have talked openly about their experiences on the film and in the franchise and how there have been like things happening in their own homes, them coming home and their pictures are all, crooked or things have moved and stuff like that. So,
so if you guys want to dive deeper into all of that conspiracy stuff and what's happened after the fact of all of that franchise, just Google it. That's what we did.
Yeah. And like I said, too, there's some documentaries and like episodes. I think there's an episode on Netflix of like movies that made us.
Yes.
And I think they have like a whole horror like section. And Poltergeist is one of those films. But yeah, moving, right along, we're just going to dive right into our thoughts on the film. I kind of wrote my notes in a very linear way, just like really like kind of scene by scene and, things that really stuck out to me. But like overall, I just want to say the Poltergeist has a special place in my heart because I come from a family, especially my dad, who is a huge horror lover. He loves horror, sci-fi, just films in general. And so I feel like I got introduced to a lot of these films at a very young age, including Poltergeist. That was probably one of the first like scary movies I saw. And there's just so many things about it that I just feel like you can't beat, like just the setting and the time that it was filmed in and a lot of the effects. I mean, we can talk a little bit more about like that as well. But, one of the things I love is just like the very first opening sequence is like the Star Spangled Banner is playing in the middle of the night on TV while the whole family is sleeping. But Craig T. Nelson, Steve, the father, he is asleep, on the lazy boy in the living room. And you just get that first intimate shot with the TV. And that kind of sets the stage for everything that's like going to happen. And another thing that I really love too is in that beginning scene, again, this is not a dog podcast, but but the dog, it's like a cool follow scene where they follow the dog from room to room to like every family member. And he kind of like grabs a little something to eat, like in every room almost. And then we jump like immediately into action with Carol Ann coming downstairs, going right up to the TV and starting to communicate with the spirits that are in it. So that's one thing I really respect because nowadays a lot of horror films take forever to get into the action or there's so much buildup and then you get really let down where I feel like Poltergeist just like jumped right into it.
Yeah. And I will say like, this again, just like Emma said, this is probably one of the most like iconic movies of my childhood, horror films of my childhood. It still, even I'm 32, it still haunts me to this day. Even after rewatching it, it's it's a little dated. It's 82. It's almost how many years old?
We were saying 30 at first because I think we still think it's like 2010. But yeah, it is 41 years old. Yeah.
So even to this day, it still kind of haunts me, but it still holds up. So it's iconic.
It is so iconic, and I just feel like I can see so many films now that have homages to this film.
Yeah.
Like even the producer and I were actually watching Insidious the other day.
Ooh.
And there are a lot of parallels between those two films. And, you know, I watched Insidious when it first came out in 2011, but then to watch Poltergeist again so frequently after seeing Insidious, I was like, oh my gosh, there is so many parallels between these two films and just little things. And I love stuff like that, like Easter eggs, or like if I was a filmmaker, I would be doing things left and right that would like remind other horror fans of like other great films.
And I get that. And something that caught me throughout rewatching, I haven't watched this in probably like 5 years. So it's a refresher for me. So something that caught me this time around is the cinematography, which I appreciated because I love cinematography and like the shots and everything. So yes, it was an 82 film, but I'm like, wow, okay, Steven Spielberg, I see you.
Yeah, no, totally. That was another thing too, that I didn't realize that Steven Spielberg had produced it. I probably knew that like back in the back of my head, but like sort of forgot.
Yeah.
And there were so many cool things that I could tell were just like Steven Spielberg little like, it was just so his
Little
style.
Easter eggs,
yeah. But yeah, there's, you know, this film has Carol Ann. She's like already talking to the TV right in the beginning. And she's sort of like setting the tone for like her family kind of being like, okay, something's kind of weird happening with Carol Ann. And I think at first they think that it's mostly just like her like sleepwalking or having some sort of like a night terror type thing. They're like, oh, you know, she walked downstairs again. She was saying weird things, blah, blah, blah. And they don't immediately think like demons or like ghosts or anything like that.
And like, may I say, and this is another like potential trigger warning. Carol Ann, like low-key reminds me of JonBenet Ramsey.
Oh my gosh, 100%.
Sorry? I like,
yes.
That was,
which like,
okay, producer, stop laughing at me.
Which like, I don't know, like what year did JonBenet Ramsey?
She was like 90s. She, just by her looks and like, I guess it's just like the looks essentially. And that was, for listeners out there, that was my first instance of like knowing true crime. So it sticks with me and it kind of goes hand in hand with like horror films. So just kind of reminds me of that.
Definitely like that just cute. It just is like the picture of innocence. I feel like
exactly.
It's just like a little angelic child.
Yep.
Actually, fun fact, I read that Steven Spielberg actually wanted Drew Barrymore to play the role of Carol Ann, but he wanted someone who was a little bit more angelic. So Heather O'Rourke definitely fit, you know, the slot for that. But yeah, as the movie kind of continues in the opening scenes, you know, we get to a point where we start to see a lot of foreshadowing. Like the younger brother, Robbie, he is the middle child. So he's between Dana, the oldest, who's 16, and then Carol Ann, who is probably like 4 or 5
She's
in this. 5.
Yeah.
Robbie's like 8 or 9 years old. And we start to see some foreshadowing in 2 ways, because later in the film, he has experiences, very scary experiences with a tree right outside of his window and also a clown that he has in his bedroom, which I never understood because he seems terrified of it the entire time. And I'm like, dude, get rid of that freaking clown.
But do you notice in one of the shots, and we can get to this later, that Carol Ann has the clown in her bed, like cuddling with it?
That's weird.
I know.
You know what else is weird?
What? Tell me.
That they share a room.
Oh, you want to know why it's weird they share a room? Because they're brother and sister, and she's 5 and he's like 9.
Like, okay, we don't have kids, so please someone tell us if that's like not weird or not. But like, they seem like they're pretty well off. I'm sure they have an extra 2 or 3 bedrooms that they could like give them their own room. Like Robbie needs his own room to grow.
Also, like, homeboy, Mr. Freeling,
Steve,
is part of the development company.
That's what I'm saying.
Get yourself a bigger,
like you're the face of the development.
Yeah. So
Robbie should have his own room. Yeah.
Mr. Freeling should have his own room.
And if Carol Ann is possessed, she should definitely have her own room.
Absolutely.
So yeah, those are just our 2 cents on that.
That's a hot take.
It's a hot freaking take. Another thing too, that we have kind of in the beginning of the film, actually, during that opening scene where we see Carol Ann at the TV, like talking to the spirits, she says her iconic line,
"They're here." Did I do good?
I was cueing Allie off camera, or off, off camera, I guess.
We don't even have a camera.
We don't even have a camera. But yeah, that is like such an iconic line. Actually, I think I said that today when we showed up
You said, we're here.
I was like, we're here.
To producer, yeah.
So yeah, that, is just really iconic in itself. It gets referenced so many times in different films, pop culture, super huge. So if you haven't seen the film, you've probably heard that line somewhere else. Going into, sort of like the main action of the film, essentially things just start happening around the house where it's just all like unexplainable.
I have a couple notes before we jump into like the main action.
Yeah.
Is one thing I thought was like so interesting and like kind of cool, and I'd love to know the mechanics behind it. Again, mentioning cinematography is the shot where the mother and Carol Ann are in the kitchen. Carol Ann's like at the kitchen table.
Oh my God, I literally was about to say this.
Right?
Yes.
And we turn around, this is all one shot, by the way. Cinematography, it's great. We go from the kitchen table where everything's normal, right? And then we move to where mom is in the kitchen. She's putting trash away or something. The same shot goes back to the kitchen and all these chairs are stacked up on the table. And I was like, hell yeah.
In the weirdest way too. Like
Yeah.
I have watched it so many times and I'm like, I want to try to restack some chairs like that.
I mean, I'm sure they did it like.
Yeah, like how they actually even did the scene.
I'm sure
I think about
they
that too.
glued it all together and just like ran in and just like put it right on there.
Yeah.
But it just, to me, the cinematography of that was just like cool as a viewer.
Well, and that's where things start to get weird.
Yeah.
Like their family's they're still not thinking at this time like, oh, it's like crazy demonic spirits. They're like, okay, like some weird stuff's happening in this house. Like, are there like magnetic shifts or things that we don't know about? And then, even in that same scene a little bit later, the mom is like testing things moving around in the kitchen and she literally uses her own daughter.
She puts her on the fucking floor and she just moves her
in a football helmet. I mean, protection, obviously.
Always use protection.
Don't want her to always use protection. You heard it here first. And she literally slides her daughter across the floor and shows her husband. Her husband gets home from work.
And she's like so excited
She's
about
so excited.
I
mean, honestly, I probably would be too.
I would be running out the door.
Yeah,
with my
that's
kids,
where we
maybe,
differ.
I guess. I don't know.
I would be like, what can we do next? I'm just weird like that.
What about the clown though? Factor in that shit's cool. Let's slide across the floor. I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, you're right.
The clown,
but then when
though,
it gets bad. It gets bad. But then, some more things happen and Carol Ann is essentially taken one night by the spirits of her closet. So at this point, again, like their family has sort of noticed things are going a little weird. Things are moving around. They've even asked their neighbors at one point, like, oh, like, have you guys been experiencing anything weird? Like, we just want to, see what's going on. And even their own neighbors are like, no, you guys are weird. And they have a really dramatic night where Carol Ann goes missing. And of course, the parents are like, we have no fucking clue what's happening. This is crazy. So they consult the help of this parapsychologist. They don't really talk about like how they find her or anything. It just all of a sudden jumps and they're there at her office. But, she's believing stuff that's happening to them. She's like, that is weird. And at this point, they have not gone to the police. Their daughter is gone.
Do we see police at all in this?
No,
film?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
There are no police. The timing is a little foggy because like you don't know if it's been like 24 hours or has it been like 6 hours. You're not really sure when they go to the parapsychologist's office, but they even say, they go, we haven't even gone to the police. This is like what we're doing, basically.
Does she seem like Lorraine Warren of Ed and Lorraine Warren?
100%.
Yeah.
I think the only thing there is, I wonder if that is who they based those characters off of.
Those are real people, dude.
Oh, yeah, duh. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
So
Come on.
Just kidding. I totally forgot. You know who I was thinking of was Elise from Insidious. Also similar.
And then the freaking hero comes in. Tanginia. Listeners, I can't pronounce her name.
Okay, it's
Tanginia?
No, you're throwing me off now. It's Tangina. But we're also 13-year-old boys over here, and we keep laughing and saying Tangina. Sorry for anyone listening, but I just have to be real.
Sorry, Mom.
But it's Tangina, and it's played by the legendary Zelda Rubinstein. She comes in later. So she's like more towards like the end because the parapsychologist woman, her name's Dr. Leach. She tries to go with her assistants to the house first because I don't think that they realize what they're working with and what they're like up against.
A pivotal moment in the movie is once Carol Ann is, I guess you could say, sucked into the TV. is her brother, because again, remember the brother and the sister share a room. Don't forget.
Don't forget.
And when the brother realizes, I think he had just been attacked by the tree, which we haven't even addressed.
But yeah, there's actually a moment in kind of the earlier part of the film where Robbie is in his bed going to sleep and the tree that he's scared of outside of his window like reaches through to try to get him essentially. And he kind of also has a little bit of a moment with the clown too as well, right?
Yeah, all in that scene. And I'm just like, what is that a metaphor for?
Yeah. And fun fact, actually, that we looked up is Steven Spielberg, who produced the film. He actually had a major fear of clowns and then a tree specifically outside of his window as he was a child. And so he sort of wanted to manifest those into the film, which is really interesting.
Oh, so what I was going to say is going back to Robbie, the brother, the little brother, you know, I hadn't watched this movie in like 5 years. And when I was preparing to watch this to record the podcast, what I could remember, and Robbie goes, Mom! Mom! In the most annoying way you can ever imagine.
Like if you've seen Babadook,
Yeah.
where the kid is just like screaming for his mom the whole time. Oh my God. This is like very equivalent to that.
Yeah. No,
but not as long.
It was just like, why do I remember that part? Because it was like so impactful.
And it's like, isn't it like a profile shot of him too? And
it's like against the TV too.
Yeah.
It's like he's like screaming that against the TV. Obviously, he's worried about his sister and he's been attacked by a tree. I get all of those
like
awful
valid
things.
fears. Very valid.
But I'm just like, bitch, why are you yelling at me?
Like, whoa.
Like, hold on. Sorry, Robbie.
Robbie. Yeah. Sorry, Robbie.
Or whatever your real name is.
Oliver Robbins.
Oliver Robbins. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Back to kind of the parapsychologist, Dr. Leach, and her two assistants. I think it's Marty and Brian, right?
Brian is fire, by the way.
Yeah, Allie has a fat crush on Brian.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, he's pretty foxy. Is that a word?
He's fire.
Fire. Is that what?
As the kids say. He has Riz.
Oh, what does that mean?
I don't know.
Oh, no.
But that's what the kids say. Yep.
Okay, well, he's got Riz. He's hot. And then Marty is like kind of like the geeky one. You know, again, I'm not saying this because I myself am also sort of geeky, but like stereotypically, like in a film, he's like got the glasses and he's like a little nerdy. But yeah, they try to do some experiments essentially with all of their equipment. They've got all this ghostly ghost hunter stuff, ghost adventures stuff.
Okay. Ow.
Low blow.
Whoa, low blow. Story for another time.
Yeah, I was just going to say we'll have to tell that story another time. They have all this like ghost hunting equipment and, you know, they're doing like experiments and everything. And they have some experiences happen. And one of them, Marty, has a very, very scary experience, which I want to detail this scene because it's, I feel like, very pivotal in the film. It's very iconic. It's one of the most graphic scenes, I would say, in the film too. But Marty has an instance where he goes upstairs into the room that Carol Ann was taken from. And he comes back down and he's like, you know, he has a very scary situation and he's like freaked out. He comes running down the stairs and the whole family's down there and the parapsychologist and his partner, Brian. And he's like, you guys, something I swear just bit me. And he lifts up his shirt and he has like this huge bite mark on his stomach. Not like bite taken out necessarily, but just like the teeth. And so that's weird. He's freaked out. He actually goes into the kitchen to get a snack. And in the kitchen, he gets out a piece of steak and a like chicken wing or something. I don't know. I forget if he's like trying to get a snack or if he's just trying to get something to like put ice on his face. I think the steak is more for like ice on his face. And he starts to kind of hallucinate and he sees like maggots coming out of the meat. There's something like crawling out of the piece of steak. It's like very well done, like for 1982 visual effects. And he runs into the bathroom and is like, holy shit, what did I just see? And he's trying to kind of like scrub his face, like wash his eyes. His face starts melting off and he's like clawing at his face and it is coming apart right in front of him. But it's not really happening. It's just the ghosts obviously playing like a trick on him, making him see things. But he is freaked the F out and he actually leaves after that night. So that leaves just Brian and the hot Brian and the parapsychologist, Dr. Leach, the lady with the red hair, to kind of elevate the situation. And so from there, that's where Allie's favorite character, what's her name, Allie?
What is Tangenia? Tangina?
Tangina. No, Tangina. You got it. Good job.
I got it. She's like the little, she also has Riz.
She does have, Tangina has Riz.
She has
100%.
Riz.
Like, if I've ever seen Riz before today, it's Tangina.
She's the little spiritual woman.
What did you say?
You know what? But in my notes, it says she freaks me out, but in a comforting way.
And yeah, totally. If you're against ghosts, she's got your back.
But she also has some pretty profound quotes, not to get deep here, but
yes,
if I may, from Tangina. Tangina, yeah. It is, there is no death. There is only a transition to a different sphere of consciousness. And I was like, whoa.
I actually love that because I just read a book all about that, like in a really sweet way, about like spirits crossing over to like basically like their limbo area before they like go to heaven. And it was a great book. And so I love that line.
Tangina knows what's up.
Tangina knows what's up.
So anyways, basically Tangina is, how did they procure her as like a...
Like to help with the whole thing?
Yeah.
I think that she's just friends with like Dr. Leach and then somehow gets like...
Dr. Leach also has a low-key meltdown and she just, for the rest, like after she couldn't do anything...
She's like, I can't do this.
She's like against the wall, like holding her hands against the wall for the rest of the movie. And then Tangina comes in and she's like, I got this, you guys.
Yeah, she's like, I've literally done this before. Like, let me help you.
Has she?
Sorry, she says she hasn't actually, but
we'll get to that.
We'll get there.
But she also says, just when talking about what is happening, she says, we're dealing with the beast. Oh, this is Zuli warning. Zuli, don't listen to this. She said it's the beast, and sounds like it's a demon control over Carol Ann, who's, manipulating her to stay in that realm that she's in. So there's Carol Ann, this innocent being, and then you've got this beast, quote unquote, or whatever this is, trying to convince her to stay in this realm, and it's working.
Yep.
Zuli, don't listen.
Our friend Zuli just hates some like demonic stuff, so we wanted to put a little trigger warning in there.
But I'm also like, is this a metaphor for something like family dynamics?
Totally.
There's a lot of family dynamic metaphors in here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is it a family dynamic thing within like, power, control, all of that? Or is it just simply a horror film thing trying to scare us? But I think within this film, there's a lot of metaphor.
Oh, totally.
So I think that's one of them, is the beast, as Tangina says.
Yeah. Well, and I think like Tangina, it's okay.
You know what?
It is kind of a strange like character name, but it's got to mean something. I tried to do some like research on it and I couldn't find like too much of why they named her that. But yeah, and I mean, I think that one thing that we also find out later in the film, which makes a lot of sense as to why this is all even happening, is the father in the film, Steve, is like a lead person for this development in Cuesta Verde, the neighborhood. And he talks to like his boss and he basically finds out that they are living on top of like a graveyard, essentially. Yeah. And, it doesn't bother the dad, Steve, too much at first because he's like, he's assuming that they moved the bodies, moved the bodies and the gravestones and like, yeah, they were buried there, but like they're not there anymore. Come to find out, and this is like way down the line in the film, but that they didn't actually move the bodies. And that's, kind of where all of the spiritual disruption is like coming from. So.
Right, but even like all before that, there's a lot that goes from like Tangina.
Just call her Tangina.
Tangina. Thank you, producer. Tangina. So she comes and accepts like to help this family, right? And then there's a lot of moving parts in between her acceptance of dealing with this and then getting Carol Ann back, right?
Yeah.
It does propose a weird, like, back to the metaphors, is everything fucked up because of economy and corporate corruption?
I mean, yeah. Let's be real.
Also, like, why is their house the only, like, their neighbors are like, what? We're cool.
I know. That is, yeah, like, why? And is it because Carol Ann is, like, so innocent and pure? Does that play into it? And I feel like innocence and pureness and all of that plays such a major theme in a lot of films and a lot of different stories. Yeah. Like that could be part of it too as well.
Yeah, those are all great questions.
I have a million questions.
Well, then kind of taking us into what Tangina does is, she believes that essentially they need to like go into this portal that has opened up in Carol Ann's closet to try to get her back. That's really the only way, is to like go into that realm and to see if they can, get their baby girl back.
Can I jump into Emma and I have kind of established a couple of questions for each other to answer before or during our movie sessions, and it's favorite scene.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And can I go into my favorite scene?
Please. Oh yeah.
Okay. Basically, Tangina is you guys. I will never get it.
She's trying, everyone. She's trying.
Tangina is suggesting that she needs to go into the portal to rescue Carol Ann. So Mom and Tangina are together, and they have some kind of rope system because her and Brian had tested out that there is a a portal that you can go through.
That's in the house.
That's
the
in
beginning
the house.
and the end of the portal
Yes.
is in the house.
Like they were throwing tennis balls into
the closet.
Yeah.
And they were like coming out
to
the
make
living
sure
room.
the portal actually exists and people could come through it.
Yeah.
Mom and Tangina are standing together, portals going off. Tangina says, I'm going in after her, meaning she's going in after Carol Ann. And then Mom says, she won't come to you. And then Tangina says, you've never done this before. And Mom says, neither have you. And Tangina says, you're right. You go. And I'm like,
that was actually the one scene of comedic relief. I feel like that was in this whole thing. I was like,
I'm like,
it was
yes,
so cute.
bitch.
She's like, you're right. You
go. And she's
like,
shouting it
I love
with such a straight face that I'm like, this is the cutest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
I actually really love that.
So that was
really
my
cute.
favorite scene.
I love that. Yeah, I absolutely love that. One of my favorite scenes is coming up, or my favorite scene, I guess I should say.
We can keep going in order.
Yeah. So before we get to my favorite scene, just like Ali said, they're trying to get Carol Ann out through this portal, and they send in her mom to try to get her. They successfully get her, and she literally falls from the ceiling, essentially, in the living room, her and her mom. So Carol Ann is in her mom's arms, and they both fall to the floor. One funny thing, which I was actually talking to the producer about last night, is that we both agree that the substance that is on every little thing that comes out of the portal looks like strawberry jelly. And it made me really hungry for a sandwich.
You're
which
gross.
I know that, it wouldn't make a lot of people hungry.
It looked to me like a placenta.
Yeah, I
would know.
That. I didn't get the same. I didn't get the same vibe. I was like, I think the producer said something really funny last night. He said, "Poltergeist, brought to you by Smuckers." And I thought that was really funny. So I have to give credit where credit is due. But yeah, so they successfully get Carol Ann back. And one thing that I really want to point out that I love about this film at this point is you're sitting there and you're watching the movie, especially if you're a first timer, and you're like, oh my God, amazing. Happy ending. Everything's done. We're ready to go. And even Tangina says, this house is clean.
That was perfect.
But I want to say to everyone who's an Ace Ventura fan, that reminds me of an Ace Ventura when he goes into an apartment that got broken into, and he goes, I have exorcised the demons. This house is clear. So yeah, that's just for all of you Jim Carrey fans. But anyways, so you think everything is done. You're like, oh my gosh.
Wait, if you look at the timestamp, you're like, nothing is done.
Well, I mean, yeah. This is when this came out in 1982, you're like, film over. I'm going home. I'm full of popcorn and cherry Coke. I'm ready to go. But
all I'm saying is this is a long ass movie.
No, it is a long ass movie, which this is also a long ass podcast because of that. Oops. But yeah, apologies. You think everything's fine. Everyone's celebrating. They're so happy. Oh my gosh, Carol Ann's alive. Her mom's good. Everybody's great. And then it cuts to the next scene is them packing up their stuff. So they are getting ready to move.
So here are my thoughts. Okay. So if you had all of this happen at your house and you've got your daughter back and everything is not okay, but you can move on, wouldn't you just get the fuck out of there?
I agree with you, but as devil's advocate,
Okay. Go for it.
I will say, like, as someone like myself who's like very trusting of others, like maybe not always in the best way.
You mean trusting of like what? Like
A
ghosts and
Tangina.
demons? Okay.
Like the fact that Tangina was like, this house is clean. Like I would have been like, cool. I trust her 100%. Like she just helped me get my baby back. Do you know what I mean? Like obviously I don't want to stay there any longer than I have to, but like if everything's kosher and we're good and I'm packing up stuff and nothing's happening, I wouldn't stay another night there, but I would be okay like just being there for maybe just to get my stuff.
So I would probably leave all of my shit and be like, peace out. Let's get some movers.
I love that. I love a differing opinion.
Oh my gosh. What just happened?
Why would we do that? I know. I get it. I mean, I get where you're coming from. And if you were my husband, I would probably go along with what you said.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But if you know what?
I'm easily submissive, so it's fine. It's totally fine.
But as your best friend, would you listen to me?
Yeah.
Okay, they're good.
I think I would try to convince you otherwise. Maybe not convince you, but
Well, you could stay and I'm leaving.
but at the end of the day, I'd be like, okay, you're right. It would, like,
no,
fine.
you could stay. I'm leaving.
Well, so okay, so then like that scene, just like I was saying, they are packing up their stuff. They're like, you know, the movers are helping them, all of this stuff, and you think everything's great. And then she even talks to her husband and he has a couple last minute things that he needs to tie up before they end up leaving. And she's like, you're going to be back tonight, right? And he's like, I will be back tonight and we're out of here. Like I think the plan was not for them to stay a whole other night. I think it was just like until he got home later that evening.
I disagree. I think they were just spending another night, but also that is probably just like a weird 90s plot hole. Like,
yeah, maybe it's
weird.
Yeah. But yeah, they all kind of like start to get in their PJs again, minus the dad.
Also, mom goes and takes a bath and like she takes a bubble bath.
Yeah, it is kind of weird.
And she's like having a great time in her bubble bath.
She is having a great time. But again, devil's advocate, she's been stressed.
Okay, go to the Holiday Inn where they eventually end up.
True.
And take a bath there, not at your haunted house.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
She was having a great time in the bath. And then shit's happening like in their kids' room.
Yeah. So this is one of my like favorite scenes, I should say.
Okay.
And that is like the ultimate clown scene where the clown, Robbie and Carol Ann are sleeping. The clown comes and he is being crazy and he drags Robbie under the bed. And there's like a whole scene where he's basically trying to eat him alive with his mouth. Yep. He's trying to swallow him.
Trying to eat him.
And Carol Ann is just like watching in horror. And then like essentially the door of their closet, which is, I will say it is kind of stupid that she let them sleep in that same room that Carol Ann got abducted from in the first place, I will say.
I'm also curious, like, why is that the portal? But that's a whole different conversation.
I know, that's a whole thing. But I will say, like, going through the portal, like, the portal opened, and I feel like it opened again, and then it started sucking them back in, and it's like, you knew this would potentially happen, so, like, why are you allowing this to happen again? But Robbie and Carol Ann are both holding on to their headboards, and so they are, like, you know, flying in the air, but still holding on for dear life, trying not to be sucked into this portal. Their mom is also having a weird moment. I don't even think she gets into the bath, actually.
Do you want to? No, she does. Okay, so do you?
No, because remember she gets like...
No, she gets into the bath, trust.
You're right. No, she does.
She's got a bubble. She's got full on. She's like, she went to Bath and Body Works.
No, you're right. She had a relaxing bath. You're right. And then
she went to Bath and Body Works and she's like...
on the bed.
In like...
in her cute little jersey.
Yeah.
She's in like a football jersey.
She's lit a candle. Like she's chilling.
She's ready.
But also, I don't know if you noticed this, but before all the chaos happened in the kids' rooms, the 5-year-old and the 9-year-old who share a room together, just going to keep repeating that. So what Robbie keeps looking over towards, the chair from the kitchen appears.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
Did you notice that?
Yes, I did.
So it gets planted and he's like, oh, fuck.
He knows right then and there.
Yeah.
He's like, shit's going down.
And that's when the shit goes down.
Yep.
And shit starts swirling.
Shit starts swirling.
Yeah.
Well, and then the mom has a completely separate experience in her bedroom where she gets dragged up the wall.
Yep.
Which is terrifying, but also a really good job of mimicking that in the
Evil Dead.
in Scary Movie.
Oh.
I'll let you all watch that on your own time. But that's really fun. And then, the mom hears her kids screaming. She finds a way to go into the room to try to rescue them. She does actually, oh no, I'm sorry. She doesn't even get into their room yet because she's trying to get to them and literally cannot get through because there is a crazy beast demon that kind of looks like Hulk Hogan with his long blonde hair. That's what I was reminded of. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
At the door. She can't get through to the door. So she's like trying to find alternative ways. And she goes in the backyard for some reason. I forget exactly why she goes in the backyard, but she goes in the backyard. It's pouring rain. And that's when she falls into the pool. And fun fact for this, she falls into the pool and there are skeletons attacking her. And the actress, Jo Beth Williams, who plays Diane, the mom, did not know that at the time, those were real skeletons that they used. She did not know that until after the scene was filmed.
Because it was cheaper.
It was cheaper.
But also
like let a girl know. You know
let a girl know.
Like I would still go in, but like let me know.
I wouldn't, dude. You cray.
No. Sometimes I just let some things slide.
Okay. Slide down into a
pool full of skeletons.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyways, skeleton scene, we're done. It she escapes, she gets out. She actually gets saved by her two neighbors, but her two neighbors are too chicken shit to go into the house with her. They're like, what's happening to your kids? And she's like, come help me. But anyways, she ends up getting Robbie and Carol Ann from being sucked into that portal again. All is well, essentially.
I have a point.
Oh,
also, I'm so sorry. Throughout this whole second wave of activity, I kept getting, like I told you, Emma, essences of Stranger Things.
Oh,
with the graphics of how I don't even know how to describe it, how the graphics were coming out of the door, looking like
it's just very similar style.
Yeah, similar style. And then I was looking at my notes also, and Tangina.
R.I.P. Zelda Rubinstein.
She's R.I.P. She said something about the in-between.
Oh, like the upside down.
Yeah. So she had a quote that I wrote down, and it was about the in-between. And I'm like, okay. Are we just, we're all kind of piggybacking off of all of these things.
Well, and that's another example of another modern day.
Exactly.
Version of something that's related to Poltergeist. Crazy.
Right.
Crazy. I love it.
Don't watch the new one, you guys.
The new, which one?
Poltergeist 2015. Don't watch it.
But if you love Sam Rockwell, still watch it.
Just watch Charlie's Angels.
Just watch Charlie's Angels. Charlie's Angels plug.
Or the way back. Just plug.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyways.
Or we can keep going on. So many Sam Rockwell films. Okay. So then we're basically at the end here, guys. So thanks for hanging with us. But the mom, brother, and little Carol Ann all get out. It's pouring rain. At the same time, of course, serendipitously, their older daughter, Dana, rolls up out of her boyfriend or friend's vehicle and is like, what the heck is going on? The house looks insane. There's lights going off. Things are happening. It's shaking. All the neighbors are out. They're like, what the hell is going on with this house, right? And then Craig T. Nelson drives up. And then they all get in the car. They're like, Dana, get in the car. We're going now. What have you, right?
For Craig T. Nelson's fans, just a hot take. At this time in the movie, they do a close-up on his butt.
Oh, wait, how did I miss that?
Yeah, and my notes say Craig T. Nelson's butt while it's raining and they're trying to get into the car. Worth the long-ass movie. Sorry, I'm 32 and I can't sit still for 2 hours, but I did it. Keep going, Emma.
And she is a co-host of a horror movie podcast, ladies and gentlemen, who can't sit still for a film. Okay, anyways. But I love that, and I will rewatch that scene later with the producer. But yeah, so then as they literally drive away, all their neighbors, including the man who made all this shit happen and who is Craig T. Nelson's boss, who knew about all the shit that went down in this development.
But he did not move the bodies. He just
didn't move the bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I have that written in my notes. Craig T. Nelson yells at him. He says, "You only moved the headstones." Yep. So like that's very iconic. Oh. So then essentially what happens is the house essentially consumes itself.
The house ate itself.
It ate itself.
Ate itself?
The house ate itself.
And I was like, the house ate itself, but I was like, for sure.
she's like, okay, house imploded for sure. And literally it becomes just an empty lot. So then everyone's looking, they're just like, what the hell just happened? What have you? So then our final scene that we have is, you know, we're in the motel room. The family gets safely to the motel.
We're at the Holiday Inn.
We're at the Holiday Inn. We win. What we gonna do then on each other? Okay.
Great content.
Just if you like that throwback song. So they're at the Holiday Inn, and it's so funny. I love this part. This is also one of my favorite scenes. Is they roll the TV outside from in the room, and I love it. Did you write that in your notes too?
So my note was love. Okay, this is like so Em and I work in like marketing. So I said,
it's our day job.
It's our day job. And I said, I love the Holiday Inn branding because like, love that kind of.
Oh yeah.
Cuter than 100%. It is now. But I also said, love when Hot Dad rolls the TV out of the room.
Hot Dad as in Craig T. Nelson.
Yes. Hot Daddy, rather. Sorry. And then it kind of reminds me of Casper too.
Oh my God.
You're right. You know?
Oh,
I know.
We love Casper.
We love Casper. Can I keep you?
Can I keep you?
Can I keep you?
Or creepy. But yeah. That is the film. I know that was a lot, and I appreciate all of you for staying with us. I do want to quickly revisit our trivia questions that we had because Ali and I are now going to reveal our answers. So as a reminder, our trivia question, well, we can go one by one, I guess, but our first trivia question was, what is the translation for the word poltergeist? Ali, what did you write?
I put ghost.
Okay, and then bonus points if you guess the language.
I put German.
Okay. I also said ghost, and I said Latin. Producer? Oh,
what?
Okay. So
oh my gosh.
It means noisy ghost, and it is German. So, Ali.
I win.
You win. High five.
High five. Thanks, my boo.
Okay. Our second question, and this actually was something I really enjoyed because I think I talked about this earlier in the podcast, but this scene where the bird gets flushed down the toilet, it kind of reminded me of Psycho with like the shadow. But essentially when Diane tries to flush Tweety the bird down the toilet, what shape does its shadow cast? And I had no clue what it was supposed to be. So I just said like upside down cross. What did you say?
I also had no idea, and I put ghost, LOL.
But we have since found out that it is actually supposed to kind of look like a shark. With like a shark fin, which totally makes sense because Steven Spielberg, Jaws. So for sure. Yeah. For sure. For sure.
For sure.
And our last trivia question is, when first conceived, what was this film originally a sequel to? And Ali and I actually both put the same answer, which is The Exorcist. Producer.
What? Are you serious, producer? Close Encounters. What? Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
Oh, which I love that film. Oh my gosh, I love that film. Okay. But yeah, so it's actually supposed to be a sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but anyways, it's fine.
So I win, basically.
So, okay. Well, I mean, you only got one, and I also got one. But sure, you can win, Ali. Okay, she did get the bonus point. Jesus Christ.
I did.
Okay. Anyways, I'll try better next time.
But I wanted to ask you, Emma, and producer, if you want to chime in. I'm
going to pour some more wine for this.
How scary did you think this film was? Did you think it was scary? Or I know it's 1982, and do you think it still holds up?
Okay, so this is a loaded question for me. I will say that I do think that this film has always scared me. And I think that it's not as like scary now, as I'm older, but it definitely scared me a lot when I was a kid. And I feel like I carry that fear a little bit with me, like because it's nostalgic to like my youth. And the producer is making me mention that I did call him last evening because I was scared and I made him come over as I was watching the film. And if you know me, you know that I watch scary movies by myself a lot, but I don't know, something about this film just got me. I think I just don't mess around with like ghosts like in homes. So like if it was a slasher film, I wouldn't even care, but because it was ghosts, I was scared.
I think this is more than a ghost. I think it's like, it's kind of demony.
Oh, well, that's even scarier.
So that's what I think, like,
it takes it up a notch.
Yeah, it takes it up several notches.
Yeah, it does.
So to me, when I, like, again, I'm analytical and I wrote down the questions and I answered them just like a freaking Scantron test, kind of. If it was scary or not. And I said, absolutely yes. Yeah. It's still scary to me this many years later. Like,
yeah,
I couldn't watch it. I watched it during the daytime for a reason.
Yeah, 100%. And I tried to start it like during the daytime too, but then it just bled into the night and I'm like, no, I can't do that.
Just don't watch the new one, you guys.
Unless, again, you like Sam Rockwell.
You like, I'll watch it just to watch Sam Rockwell.
We will. We'll watch it with you to watch Sam Rockwell.
I'll do it.
But yeah, I think that concludes our episode. Thank you all so much for listening to our first episode of Spooky Chicks and Horror Flicks. We hope that you like it. Please follow us on Instagram at Spooky Chicks Horror Flicks and rate us on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. We also have a Patreon that we have in our Instagram bio as well. If you want to donate anything just to help us out with our podcast. We also have a donation amount that gets you an episode of your choosing. So a movie that you can have us watch and then we can review. But yeah, thank you guys again so much for everything. We're super excited and wanted to also say that we are really excited to kick off our summer slasher series. And our next episode will be on I Know What You Did Last Summer.
And I know what you did last summer, fuckers.
I know what you did last summer. Sam Rockwell.
I wish.